He was a titan who lost everything. She was a waitress with no past. A forgotten doll, a simple act of kindness, and a heartbreaking truth would rewrite their entire lives. Mr. Arthur Vance was a name that commanded awe. At 45, he was the billionaire founder of Vance Tech, a Silicon Valley juggernaut that redefined artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. His real estate empire reshaped skylines from San Francisco to Tokyo, and his philanthropy funded schools, hospitals, and shelters across the globe. To the world, Arthur was untouchable, a self-made titan who bent fate to his will. But beneath the polished suits and private jets, he was a man hollowed out by a wound no wealth could heal. 16 years ago, his daughter, Lily, disappeared. She was 6, a spark of joy with hazel eyes that mirrored his, and a giggle that could melt the coldest heart. It was a crisp October day in San Francisco's Golden Gate Park. Arthur had promised to take her to the planetarium, but a critical boardroom crisis at Vance Tech kept him chained to his office. He sent his wife, Eleanor, and their nanny, Maria, instead. Then came the call that shattered his universe. "Arthur, she's gone." Eleanor sobbed. "Lily's gone." One moment, Lily was chasing a butterfly near the carousel, the next, she was nowhere. No witnesses, no ransom, no trace. A void that consumed everything. Arthur unleashed his empire to find her. He hired former FBI agents, plastered Lily's face on billboards from coast to coast, offered rewards that drew every con artist and cruel hoaxer. He scoured security footage, interrogated park vendors, funded a task force, and even hacked into government databases. He left no stone unturned, but the leads evaporated, and the case went cold. Eleanor couldn't bear the silence, the unspoken blame, for being distracted, for not being there. Their marriage unraveled, and Eleanor left, taking the last fragments of their shared life. Arthur was alone, haunted by Lily's 6th birthday, when he'd given her a handcrafted doll, chestnut curls, blue velvet dress, eyes stitched with love by a local artisan named Clarice. It was the last thing he saw her clutch, and it became his personal torment. Now Arthur lived in a penthouse that felt like a tomb. His days were filled with boardrooms and power plays, but his nights belonged to Lily. Her drawings still pinned to her untouched bedroom walls, her laughter echoing in his dreams. He kept a prototype of her doll locked in a glass case, a relic of a life stolen. He scoured missing persons databases, chased every tip, driven by a bone-deep belief that she was out there waiting for him. It was a hope that kept him breathing and broke him every day. Rusty's Bar was a gritty haven in San Francisco's Mission District, a place untouched by the city's tech boom. The floors were scuffed, the air thick with grease and regret, and the jukebox played Heartbreak on loop. Arthur started coming here after Eleanor left, craving a place where he could shed his name and drown in anonymity. No one cared about the billionaire in the corner, he was just a man with a drink and a shadow. On this stormy November night, he sat at the bar's far end, his coat slung over the stool beside him. The crowd was rowdy, but Arthur was lost in his thoughts until he saw her. The waitress moved with a quiet ferocity, balancing trays of drinks, dodging drunken hands, and flashing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She was young, mid-20s, with dark hair and a messy bun and a face that held both strength and sorrow. Her name tag read Rachel Hayes. But it wasn't her face that stopped Arthur's heart, it was the doll she carried, tucked under her arm like a shield, chestnut curls, blue velvet dress, the same delicate stitching he'd memorized 16 years ago. It was Lily's doll. His pulse roared, his vision narrowing until the bar dissolved. It couldn't be. Clarice had made other dolls, it wasn't unique. But the way Rachel held it, protective, almost reverent, felt like a knife twisting in his chest. He watched, frozen, as she set it on the counter while she poured a beer, whispering to it like it could hear. The sight was so visceral, so Lily, that he felt the world tilt. He waited until the crowd thinned, then waved her over. "Excuse me," he said, his voice rough with nerves. "That doll, where did you get it?" Rachel glanced at him, hazel eyes narrowing. She picked it up, smoothing its dress. "It's just something I've had since I was a kid." "Why?" It looks like one I gave my daughter a long time ago. It's special. Her expression softened, but her guard stayed up. Well, it's special to me too. I don't know where it came from, really, just always had it. She paused, then added, I've got tables. She walked away, leaving Arthur staring after her. His mind screamed coincidence, but his heart roared something else. He needed answers. Arthur became a ghost at Rusty's, haunting the same corner stool night after night. He switched to coffee, his eyes locked on Rachel. He hated himself for it, watching her like some stalker, but the doll had ignited a fire he couldn't extinguish. He noticed everything, the way her laugh echoed Lily's, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear, the way her fingers lingered on the doll's worn fabric. It was irrational, impossible, but the thought consumed him, what if she's Lily? He called Frank Stone, a grizzled ex-cop turned private investigator who'd worked Lily's case from the start. Find out who she is, Arthur said, his voice tight. Everything. No stone unturned. Frank's report was maddeningly sparse. Rachel Carter, 24, single mom to a 4-year-old boy named Leo. Adopted at 5 after years in foster care. No birth records, no trace of her parents. She'd grown up in Oakland with Tom and Linda Carter, a working-class couple who died in a car crash when she was 16. The doll, no origin, just a toy noted in her foster files as her constant companion. Arthur watched her closer, piecing together her life from fragments. She was fierce, snapping at rude customers but softening for Leo, who sometimes sat at the bar's end with crayons and apple juice. She kept the doll close, in her bag, on the counter, even talking to it when she thought no one heard. It wasn't just a toy, it was her anchor, her piece of home. He learned more. Rachel had dreams, a half-finished art degree, sketches she hid in a tattered notebook, a quiet hope to open a gallery someday. She was proud, refusing tips from pitying regulars, and protective of Leo, who had her eyes and a contagious giggle. Arthur saw Lily in her stubborn tilt of her chin, the way she hummed off-key while cleaning, the way she'd tilt her head when thinking. It was torture, this hope that felt like betrayal to the daughter he'd lost. One night after closing, Arthur couldn't hold back. Rachel was wiping down the bar, the doll beside her. Rachel, I need to talk to you, he said, his voice low. It's about the doll. She sighed, clearly exhausted. Look, I'm not selling it if that's what you're after. It's not that, Arthur said quickly. My daughter, Lily, had a doll just like that. She was 6 when she disappeared 16 years ago. I know it sounds crazy, but I can't ignore this. I need to know if there's a connection. Rachel froze, her hand on the doll. Disappeared? Like kidnapped? Arthur nodded, his throat tight. I have spent every day since looking for her. That doll, it's identical. I have to know. Her eyes searched his face, wary but curious. I'm sorry about your daughter, but I don't see how I'm part of this. This doll's been mine forever. What if it's not a coincidence? Arthur pressed. What if you're... He stopped, the words too heavy. What if you're her? Rachel's laugh was sharp, nervous. You think I'm your missing kid? That's insane. I have a son, a life. I'm not some lost girl from a news story. I know it's a lot, Arthur said. But there's a DNA test. Quick, simple. I'll cover everything. If I'm wrong, I'll walk away. But if there's a chance, don't you want answers? Rachel stared at the doll, her fingers tracing its seams. For a moment, she looked lost, like she was grasping for something just out of reach. I'll think about it, she said finally, her voice barely audible. Rachel agreed to the DNA test a week later, though she insisted it was to prove you're wrong. They met at a lab downtown, the air thick with tension. Rachel's hands shook as she swabbed her cheek, and Arthur felt like he might collapse under the weight of hope and dread. The results would take 3 days. For Arthur, those days were a descent into madness, sleepless nights, endless pacing, Lily's face in every shadow. They reconvened at a quiet coffee shop, the doll on the table like a silent judge. Rachel sat with her arms crossed, her jaw tight. Arthur opened the envelope, his heart pounding. The words hit him like a freight train. Rachel was his biological daughter. Rachel's face drained of color. This can't be right. I was adopted. My parents said my birth mom didn't want me. How are you my dad? I don't know how this happened, Arthur said, his voice breaking, but I swear, Rachel, I never stopped looking for Lily. If you're her, someone took you from me. Rachel's eyes blazed. If I'm her, you don't even know? You're telling me my whole life is a lie, and you've got nothing? I'll find the truth, Arthur promised. Whatever it takes. He unleashed Frank's team, tasking them with tearing apart Rachel's adoption records, her foster history, anything that could explain how Lily became Rachel. What they uncovered was a labyrinth of tragedy and vengeance, rooted in a moment Arthur had buried deep. 16 years ago, Arthur was in a car accident. He'd been driving home from a late meeting, distracted by a failing deal, when he swerved to avoid a deer and crashed into another car. The other driver, Emily Clark, was a 23-year-old artist with dreams of a gallery show. She was hospitalized with a shattered pelvis and internal injuries, her life derailed. Arthur, battered but alive, paid her medical bills anonymously, trying to absolve his guilt. He never followed up, too consumed by Lily's disappearance and his crumbling marriage. Now, the truth emerged, Emily was Rachel's biological mother. She'd been pregnant during the accident, and the trauma triggered premature labor. Rachel was born at 7 months, frail but fighting. Emily, spiraling into addiction and poverty, gave her up for adoption, unable to cope. The doll, the one Arthur gave Lily, was in Emily's car during the crash. She'd kept it as a memento from a fleeting encounter with Arthur at a charity gala years earlier, before the accident. It was passed to Rachel through the adoption agency, a ghost of a life she didn't know. But the story didn't end there. Emily's brother, Marcus Thorne, a petty criminal with a vicious grudge, blamed Arthur for his sister's downfall. When he learned Arthur was a billionaire, he saw a chance to strike. Marcus orchestrated Lily's abduction, planning to extort a massive ransom. But his crew botched the job, panic set in, and Lily was lost in the chaos, her identity erased as she was shuffled into foster care. Marcus disappeared, leaving no trace, and Lily became Rachel, a girl with no past. The truth was a wrecking ball, demolishing everything Arthur and Rachel believed. They met at Rusty's after hours, the bar a hollow shell of its usual noise. Rachel clutched the doll, her eyes swollen from crying. I don't know who I am anymore, she said, her voice raw. I used to talk to this doll in foster homes when I was scared, when I felt like I didn't belong anywhere. I'd tell it I was waiting for someone to find me. I thought it was just kid stuff, but it was you, wasn't it? It was my real life. Arthur's chest ached, tears burning his eyes. I'm so sorry, Rachel. I should have found you. I should have known. Don't call me Olivia, she snapped. I'm not her. I'm Rachel Carter. I'm Leo's mom. I'm not your little girl anymore. The words cut deep, but Arthur understood. He wanted to hold her, to beg for forgiveness, but she was a stranger and his daughter all at once. What do you want from me? He asked. I'll do anything. Rachel looked at the doll, then at him. I don't know. I have Leo. I have bills. A job. A life. I can't just become someone else. But I can't pretend this isn't real either. They sat in silence, the weight of their shared history crushing them. Arthur saw Lily in her, the stubborn tilt of her chin, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear, the fierce love in her eyes when she spoke of Leo. Rachel saw a man broken by loss, a man who looked at her like she was both salvation and punishment. Over the months that followed, they tried to navigate their fractured bond. Arthur met Leo, a bright, curious boy who loved dinosaurs and sticky candy. They went to the park, 2 movies. Arthur marveling at the boy's energy. Rachel watched from a distance, her heart torn. I don't want your money, she told Arthur one night. I want to know why I grew up thinking no one wanted me. I want to know who my mom was. Arthur kept digging, desperate to give her closure. He tracked down Emily's old roommates, her sketchbooks, her story, a talented artist crushed by addiction, haunted by the child she'd lost. He found a painting Emily had done, hidden in a storage unit, a young girl with a doll, her face blurred but unmistakably Rachel. Arthur shared everything with Rachel, holding nothing back, even when it hurt. One evening, Rachel called Arthur, her voice trembling. "I found something in the doll." She'd been repairing a tear in its dress when she noticed a hidden seam. Inside was a folded piece of paper, brittle with age, written in a child's shaky scrawl, "Daddy, I love you. Find me." Arthur broke down when he saw it, sobbing like a man unmade. It was Lily's handwriting, a message from the 6-year-old he'd lost. She'd hidden it in the doll before she was taken, a desperate plea that had survived 16 years. Rachel's hands shook as she read it, tears streaming down her face. "I don't remember writing this," she whispered, "but I feel it like it's been inside me all along." The letter was a spark, igniting something new. Rachel began to let Arthur in, not as a father, but as someone bound to her by fate. They met for dinners, then weekends, Leo tagging along with his endless chatter. Arthur took them to the aquarium, watching Leo press his nose to the glass as jellyfish floated by, and for the first time in years, he felt alive. Rachel watched, her walls crumbling, her heart torn between resentment and hope. But the doll had more secrets. A week later, Rachel found another hidden seam, this one in the doll's skirt. Inside was a second note, in a different hand, adult, hurried, smudged with tears. "I'm sorry, baby. I couldn't keep you safe. Find your father." It was Emily Clark's handwriting, confirmed by her old journals. She'd written it before giving Rachel up, a final act of love buried in the doll that had carried Rachel through her life. The notes were a bridge to the past, but they also raised new questions. Arthur realized Marcus Thorne's role in Lily's abduction wasn't the full story. He pushed Frank Stone to dig deeper, and they found a bombshell: Marcus was alive, living under an alias in a Nevada trailer park. Arthur flew out to confront him, not for revenge, but for answers. Marcus was a shell of a man, his face etched with regret. "I didn't mean for it to go so far," he said, his voice hollow. "I wanted to hurt you, make you pay for what you did to Emily. But I lost Lily too. I couldn't control it." He'd handed Lily to a contact in the foster system, thinking she'd be safe, but the system swallowed her. Marcus had been running from his guilt ever since. Arthur walked away, knowing justice wouldn't undo the past. Instead, he focused on Rachel and Leo, on building something real. He started a foundation in Lily's name, funding searches for missing children and support for families like his. Rachel joined him, speaking at events, her story a beacon for others. The truth wasn't a clean resolution, it was a reckoning. Rachel struggled with her identity, torn between the life she'd built and the one stolen from her. She visited Emily's grave, leaving the doll's blue ribbon as a tribute, whispering, "I wish I'd known you." Arthur grappled with his guilt, not just for Lily, but for Emily, for the ripple effects of his choices. One day, Rachel showed Arthur a photo album she'd found in her adoptive parents' storage unit. It was filled with pictures of her as a child, the doll always by her side. In one photo, she was 5, clutching it at a foster home Christmas party, her eyes wide with a hope that broke Arthur's heart. "I always felt like someone was out there," she said. "I just didn't know it was you." The album became their bridge. They shared stories, Arthur of Lily's love for stargazing, Rachel of her foster years, the doll her only constant. They laughed, cried, argued, slowly stitching together a bond that was neither father-daughter nor stranger, but something uniquely theirs. But the past wasn't done with them. Frank Stone uncovered a new lead, a woman named Carla, a former associate of Marcus who'd been part of the abduction. She was now a social worker in Sacramento, living a quiet life. Arthur and Rachel drove to meet her, the doll in Rachel's bag, a silent witness to their quest. Carla was nervous, her hands fidgeting as she spoke. "I didn't know what Marcus was planning," she said. "He said it was a quick job, a way to get money from some rich guy. But when it went wrong, I couldn't leave her. Lily. I got her into foster care. Gave her a new name. I thought I was saving her. Carla had kept tabs on Rachel over the years, watching from afar, haunted by her role. Rachel's voice shook. You let me think I was unwanted? You let me grow up alone? Carla's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry. I was scared. I didn't know how to fix it. Arthur put a hand on Rachel's shoulder, grounding her. They left without closure, but with a new piece of the puzzle, a name, a face, a truth that made the past feel less like a ghost. Back in San Francisco, Rachel and Arthur faced a new challenge, Leo. He'd started asking questions. Why Mr. Arthur was around so much, why Mommy was sad sometimes. Rachel sat him down one night, the doll on the couch beside them. Leo, honey, she said, Arthur is. He's your grandpa. He's my dad. We just found each other. Leo's eyes widened. Like a treasure hunt? Rachel laughed through tears. Yeah, like a treasure hunt. Arthur became a fixture in Leo's life, teaching him to ride a bike, reading him dinosaur books, sneaking him extra cookies. Rachel watched, her heart softening but still guarded. She started painting again, inspired by Emily's work, her canvases filled with images of dolls, parks, and blurred faces. Arthur bought her a small studio space, not as charity, but as a belief in her talent. One night Rachel found a third note in the doll, sewn into its shoe, a tiny folded scrap from Lily. I'm scared, but I know you'll come. It was Lily's final message, a testament to her faith in him. Rachel broke down, clutching the doll, feeling Lily's fear as if it were her own. Arthur held her, their first real embrace, a father and daughter united by pain and love. But the shadows deepened. Frank Stone uncovered another layer, a corrupt adoption agency tied to Marcus's network, which had profited from placing children like Lily into foster care. Arthur and Rachel dug into the agency's records, uncovering a trail of falsified documents and payoffs. They met other families affected by the agency's schemes, forming a coalition to expose the truth. Rachel's paintings became part of the campaign, her art a voice for the voiceless. One evening Rachel received an anonymous letter at Rusty's, slipped under the door. It contained a faded photograph of a young Lily holding the doll, standing next to a woman Rachel didn't recognize. On the back, in shaky handwriting, she was never lost. She was hidden. The letter hinted at a deeper conspiracy, a network that protected Marcus and others like him, tied to powerful figures who profited from the chaos. Arthur and Rachel traced the photograph to a retired nurse named Evelyn Ross, who'd worked at a hospital where Emily had given birth. Evelyn, now frail and living in a nursing home, confessed through tears. I was paid to keep quiet. They took your girl. Changed her name to protect someone high up. It was Senator James Hudson, she revealed. A prominent politician who'd funded the agency to cover his own family scandals, including a nephew involved in Marcus's network. Arthur confronted Hudson, not with violence, but with evidence, documents, testimonies, Rachel's paintings. The senator crumbled, his empire exposed, and the agency's network began to unravel. Justice was slow, but it was coming. The story hit the national news with Rachel's art at the center, her paintings of the doll and a blurred girl becoming symbols of hope and accountability. But the twist wasn't over. Rachel found a fourth note in the doll, hidden in its tiny velvet hat, a final message from Emily. My daughter, you are my star. Live for me. It was a plea for Rachel to reclaim her life, not as a victim, but as a survivor. Rachel wept, realizing Emily had loved her fiercely, even in her brokenness. Rachel and Arthur's journey didn't end with justice. They faced new challenges, media scrutiny, threats from Hudson's allies, the emotional toll of their discoveries. Rachel's paintings went viral, earning her a gallery show in San Francisco where she displayed works inspired by Lily, Emily, and Leo. Arthur attended, his heart swelling with pride as Rachel spoke to the crowd, her voice steady, her doll, now named Star, on a pedestal beside her. Leo, now 5, began calling Arthur Grandpa unprompted, his innocence a healing balm. They built a treehouse in Arthur's backyard, a place for Leo's dinosaur battles and Rachel's quiet sketches. Rachel enrolled in art school, determined to finish her degree while Arthur mentored her, learning to listen rather than fix. One day Rachel found a fifth note, the smallest yet, sewn into the doll's heart. "I'm still here, Daddy." It was Lily's final message, a testament to her faith in him. Rachel and Arthur held each other, their tears mingling, their bond forged in the fire of loss and love. They visited Clarice, the artisan who'd made the doll, now elderly and living in a coastal cottage. Clarice revealed she'd sewn secret pockets into every doll she made for children to hide their dreams. She wept when she learned Star's story, gifting Rachel a new doll for Leo, its pockets empty, ready for his own dreams. The exposure of Hudson's network sparked a national reckoning. Arthur and Rachel testified before a congressional committee, their story fueling reforms to the foster care system. Rachel's gallery show toured the country, her paintings raising funds for the Lily Stone Foundation, which reunited dozens of families. Arthur stepped back from Vance Tech, passing the reins to his protege, focusing instead on the foundation and his family. Rachel's art evolved, her canvases now blending Lily's stargazing dreams with Leo's vibrant energy. She opened her own gallery in the Mission District, a space for foster kids to create and heal. Leo's new doll, named Dino, became his companion, its pockets filled with his own notes, drawings of kites and dinosaurs. One evening, Rachel received a call from a woman named Lena, a former foster kid who'd seen her paintings on the news. Lena shared a story of a girl she'd known in foster care, a quiet child with a doll-like star, who'd spoken of a daddy who'd find her. Lena had kept a bracelet the girl had given her, inscribed with O.S., Olivia's stone. It was a final confirmation, a thread tying Rachel to her past, and she wept, knowing Lily's spirit had never left her. Arthur and Rachel tracked down Lena, now a teacher in Seattle, and invited her to the foundation's annual vigil. Lena brought the bracelet, placing it beside Star in a display at the community center. The moment was televised, a symbol of hope for millions. The ending. On a radiant October day, the 18th anniversary of Lily's disappearance, Arthur, Rachel, and Leo stood in Golden Gate Park near the carousel where it all began. The air was alive with laughter, the scent of autumn leaves, and the promise of new beginnings. Leo, now clutching Dino, ran ahead, chasing a kite shaped like a star, his giggles a melody that soothed Arthur's soul. Rachel held Star loosely, its blue dress catching the breeze, no longer a ghost, but a symbol of survival and love. "I don't know if I'll ever be just Lily," Rachel said, her voice steady but soft. "She's part of me, but I'm Rachel too. Ethan's mom. An artist. The woman who fought for everything I have. I don't want to choose between them." Arthur's eyes glistened. "You don't have to. I don't need you to be Lily. I just need you to be you. And I want to be part of your life. Yours and Leo's. If you'll let me." Rachel looked at Leo, then at Arthur, a smile breaking through her tears. "You're already family," she said, her voice catching. "Not perfect. Not easy. But family. And I want that. For me. For Leo. For all of us." Arthur reached for her hand, and she squeezed it, her grip firm and real. Leo ran back, tugging at Arthur's sleeve. "Grandpa," made the kite fly higher. Arthur laughed, the sound raw and free, and joined Leo on the grass, the kite soaring above. Rachel watched, her heart full, her past no longer a chain but a story she could carry. They sat together later under a sky streaked with pink and gold, sharing stories. Arthur spoke of Lily's love for constellations, pointing out Orion. Rachel shared her dreams of expanding her gallery, her paintings of loss and hope. Leo nestled between them, asked if Star and Dino could be friends. "They're family too," Rachel said, and Leo beamed. The Lily Stone Foundation grew, Rachel at its heart, her art and voice inspiring millions. They opened a network of community centers in Emily's name, havens for foster kids to find safety, art, and dreams. They held an annual vigil in the park, lighting candles for Lily, Emily, and all the children still missing, a promise to keep fighting. Rachel's gallery became a cultural landmark, her paintings of Star and a blurred girl sparking global conversations about identity, loss, and redemption. As the carousel turned, its music floating into the twilight, Arthur looked at Rachel and Leo, his heart whole, not fixed, not perfect, but whole. He'd found his daughter, not just in blood, but in the fierce, beautiful woman she'd become. In Leo's laughter, he heard Lily's echo, a promise that love could survive anything. Their story wasn't an ending, it was a beginning, a family forged in fire, ready to face whatever came next, together. The final image lingered, Rachel's painting of Star, now hanging in the community center, its blue dress glowing under a sky of stars. Beside it, Lena's bracelet and a new canvas, Leo's painting of Dino and Star flying kites under a golden sky. Below, a plaque read, "For Lily, Emily, and all who are found. Love is the light that leads us home." Last screen. If this story touched your heart and made you reflect on the transformative power of small gestures, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories that reveal how true greatness often hides in the most unlikely corners of society, and how the best revenge against an unjust system is to rebuild it with your own values.